Quad has acquired momentum in the recent past and has been seen as a natural evolution and elevation to the apex level in view of the fact that the four countries share core attributes such as democracy, commitment to pluralism, market-based economic principles. They also have a shared vision of a free and open, inclusive Indo-Pacific region. To add prosperity to that as well, and with respect for international law. This is a region that is home to all the four countries represented in the Quad, and many partners, including the ASEAN, which is central to Indo-Pacific outreach, are a very important part of that overall effort. India's approach to the Indo-Pacific was enunciated by the Prime Minister in his speech at the Shangri-La Dialogue in 2018, when he also expounded on his vision of Sagar or security and growth for all in the region. On the conclusion of his program in Washington, D.C., the Prime Minister will travel to New York on the 24th of September evening, where he will go in for the third element of his visit at the UN General Assembly. On the 25th of September, the Prime Minister will be the first head of state or government to address the United Nations General Assembly at its 76th session. The theme for this year's general debate is, and I quote, building resilience through hope to recover from COVID-19, rebuild sustainability, respond to the needs of the planet, respect the rights of people, and revitalize the United Nations. As you can see, it's a rather long theme, but nonetheless represents the main, I would say, topical issues that are important for the international community today. India is currently a member of the UN Security Council. We held the presidency in the month of August, and we steered the Council at a fairly challenging time. While addressing the UN General Assembly, the Prime Minister would dwell on the important issues, including the regional situation, cross-border terrorism, global efforts to combat COVID-19 and climate change, and the need to reform multilateral institutions. The fourth element of the Prime Minister's visit would be bilateral meetings with our close partners, Japan and Australia. The Prime Minister will meet the Australian Prime Minister, Scott Morrison. This is their first meeting in person in the post-pandemic period. The two leaders have maintained a regular dialogue with 3 phone calls. As you recall, Prime Minister Morrison called Prime Minister Modi just a few days ago. They have participated in a virtual summit in June 2020, when the India-Australia relationship was elevated to a comprehensive strategic partnership. Just recently, we had our 2+2 dialogue with the Foreign and Defence Ministers of Australia visiting India. The two Prime Ministers are likely to discuss the gamut of India-Australia relations and I think anything that is of mutual interest to both our countries. The Prime Minister will also meet Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga, the Honorable Prime Minister of Japan. This will be their first in-person meeting and follows 3 telephone conversations they had recently. They will review progress in the close and multifaceted cooperation between India and Japan under the framework of the India-Japan Special Strategic and Global Partnership and discuss priorities for the future. The Prime Minister's visit with the compact program will bolster India's key strategic bilateral partnership with the United States and our close partners, Australia and Japan. It will also consolidate the Quad as a force for global good and will give the Prime Minister an opportunity to share his vision at the multilateral arena. From the U.S. perspective, of course, I think when we look at the levels of support, we see a strong bipartisan support for a strong relationship with India and a strong relationship that can strengthen, the global efforts to further our common interests in that regard. We also, I think, as I mentioned, we have very strong trade and economic linkages. Bilateral trade in the year 2019 was at $149 billion, and I think there is scope to take that even higher. In the defense sector, we've had a number of, I would say, exchanges. We are now preparing for exercise Yuddha Abhyas, which is the Army level exercises. As we speak, we are also participating in the Malabar naval exercise, which is underway in Guam, with the participation of Australia as well. The visit is also expected to provide momentum. In other words, would provide direction to some of the important bilateral mechanisms that we have, whether it's the trade policy group, whether it's a defense policy group or the trade policy forum, or a number of other mechanisms that are now ready to I would say, review that relationship in those areas. I think once this summit is over, we will have the opportunity to take them forward. I would say finally, let us just summarize how we see the overall visit. I think India and the US are both vibrant, mature democracies. We share common values, including the rule of law, equality, freedom, and pluralism. We are both free market economies and proactive shareholders in global issues, committed to global prosperity, peace, and security. The upcoming visit of the Prime Minister would not only enhance peace, depth, and diversity of our bilateral relations, it would also give an opportunity to further strengthen our comprehensive global strategic partnership on issues of mutual concern. So I think I will stop here, Arindam, and if there are any questions, I'm happy to look at those.
If your presence here is any indication, I'm sure there are a lot of interest. I can already see hands going up. So we'll take a group perhaps. Which one should I start off with? Maybe here, right here. Just 1 second, then I'll come to you.
Hi, this is Sachin from the Times of India. My question is about AUKUS, this new pact which US has recently announced with the UK and Australia. There are concerns here that this could end up diluting the agenda of the first in-person Quad summit, if not the Quad itself, at least in the area of security in the Indo-Pacific. So are these concerns justified? Does the Indian side plan to take it up with the Americans in the bilateral in Washington? And did the Americans inform India about this before going ahead with the announcement of AUKUS? Thank you.
Foreign Secretary, related question. Our own deal with the United States on submarines has been languishing for quite some time. Emboldened by the supply of nuclear submarines, the promised supply under AUKUS to Australia, would we press harder?
All right, that was the Ministry of External Affairs briefing with respect to the Prime Minister's visit to the US. So remember, India-US bilateral meets on the 24th of September. Joe Biden will be holding talks with Prime Minister Modi, and this will be on the sidelines of the Quad. In fact, this is the first PM Biden bilateral talks, and terrorism, radicalism, all of that Afghan situation will be on the agenda.